As the morning mist begins to clear off the coast of France, an island fortress emerges looking like a medieval castle from a fairy tale. You might think you are looking at a mirage. This is Mont Saint-Michel, an absolutely magical place. According to legend, in the year 708 AD, a local bishop saw in dreams Archangel Michael, who ordered him to build a sanctuary on Mount Tomb, which became Mont Saint-Michel. The fortifications and ramparts that you see encircling the isle were built to protect the mount and its abbey during the 100 Years' War. These towers were made low because smaller targets better defend against cannon fire. The cobblestone streets of the Grande Rue, or Main Street, is unlike any main street you're used to. On either side of the winding, narrow streets, you will find stone houses and inns that date from the 15th and 16th centuries. This impressive medieval walled city is built on a small granite outcrop standing all by itself in the flats of the river Couesnon. At high tide, the mount is surrounded by water. The wall and defensive towers resisted English attacks for nearly 30 years. If you could step back in time to the old township of Mont Saint-Michel, you would see primarily timber-framed buildings. Many of them have been replaced with more comfortable buildings that still respected the original designs. Some of the old timber-framed buildings still remain. The small cemetery and bell tower in this aerial view are located beside the parish church, which is dedicated to Saint Pierre, or Saint Peter, the patron saint of fishermen. Among the tombs is the Star of the Mount, Annette Pollard, who was an innkeeper famous all over the world for her omelets, which she originally offered to travelers. Built between the 11th and 16th centuries, the stunning architecture of the Gothic-style Benedictine Abbey is clear evidence of master builders that spanned several generations. The Benedictine Abbey has numerous architectural marvels from West Roman Empire and Gothic styles. Most of the religious buildings are constructed of granite, except for the cloister, which was designed with limestone. At the end of the 100 Years' War, the Romanesque choir gallery of the Abbey, which had collapsed in 1421, was finally replaced by a Gothic-style gallery with pointed arches and bigger windows. The nave, or main seating area, of the Abbey Church shows a very beautiful example of the Romanesque period with the round arches and small windows. This room is called the Hall of the Knights. Built out of granite, this is an exceptional case of Gothic Norman architecture. Notice the ceiling constructed with ribbed vaults that are characteristic of Gothic architecture that you will see in other rooms. The monks spent much of their time here copying valuable manuscripts, which is why this room was furnished with large windows and heated with 2 enormous fireplaces. The cloister is one of the most beautiful parts of the abbey and provides a beautiful example of the 13th century architecture. The cloister sits on top of the monastery, which was not a common design. The monks were allowed to grow medicinal herbs or vegetables for their own consumption. This rectangular gallery and garden was a place of prayer and meditation. This treadwheel was installed around 1820 as a winch and lift system to hoist provisions to the prisoners being held in the abbey. At that time, 1 or 2 prisoners would rotate the wheel by walking inside it like hamsters. It was converted into a prison in 1791 and housed inmates until 1860. In the beginning, the conditions were so unbearable that life expectancy of prisoners was measured in months, not years. The ramp for this treadwheel is still visible on the south side exterior. After the penitentiary had been closed, Annette Pollard was the earliest to take in tourists that came to view the abbey that had been opened up to the general public.